Hey everybody, the theme this week was the NBO, the next best offer. If you're familiar with marketing, there is a specific description and definition of how that works. The example in the marketing context, if you're familiar with it, is, and if you're not, well, here's an example. Imagine you have a cell phone and you keep going over your data every month. You get this automatic alert based on the data that the cell phone company is reviewing from your usage, and they say, hey, guess what? We have a better plan. If you want to upgrade, just click on this link. It's that timely next best offer based on your behaviors and the data and the insights that your provider has learned from you. So they push that timely offer to you. In the context of family business, though, the theme this week of next best offer is a different perspective on that. It's a bit more thoughtful rather than that quick, timely offer. It's more of a reflection, and it's connecting that tradition, whether it's 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of the tradition, and recognizing the next best offer in terms of innovation or some improvement or iteration that's often overlooked because people are so entrenched with that tradition. And it makes sense why you would defend it, because you've made money for a long time doing that. What I found in the family business, a way to connect that tradition and that legacy of service and the iterations or improvement, is to think of it in terms of that next best offer based on what you've learned from customers. And I'll give you an example of how it worked with working with manufacturers and helping them to design more safer products. We were those compliance people, and we always provided all the evidence from the testing to make sure that it was safe for a child, or that it functioned as it was supposed to with some normal use testing, or even that it would withstand the tractor trailer ride from whatever destination to the final destination. It was always about the physical evidence, and we thought that's what we do best because we always have good procedures, people act with integrity. If something looks like it doesn't meet, we make sure we perform the test again. And we pretend we don't have the initial results. So we go through it again and provide that physical evidence. And then one day, a guy named Peter, who had never worked with us before, but knew of that tradition, said, I don't have a product yet, but I know based on your integrity, you're really good at helping me to understand the insights of what I need to know with my really creative product idea. And it was the whole gamut of consumer products. And so I got involved in this conversation with him, and what I found was we were so entrenched in our tradition of physical evidence that we really didn't think too much about how we could literally sell knowledge and the insight. And it was Peter who brought this conversation to me, and because I was a new guy, I was just curious, willing to listen, but I also recognized our tradition and the value and the integrity of the tradition and the people who created and reinforce that tradition every day. So without disrespecting them and turning it away or thinking of it as no big deal, it was more of recognizing it as really the foundation for this innovation that this new person, Peter, was asking us to share with him. And so when we shared this literature review and this insight, he was thrilled about it. And it turns out he would pay 3 times more than what we would offer in that traditional sense with the evidence. But what was really a surprise for me was what I didn't realize in the process of organizing a small team of people who are willing to, share that insight. And I took all the responsibility. I signed that report so I could, take on that risk, because a lot of people are afraid of that risk. Again, thinking it's outside the tradition. Look out for me. I need to look out for myself, and I understand that self-preservation matters too. But in terms of that next best offer, what I found after we provided the results to Peter, and I called him again to say, okay, here are the results. And he offered another insight to me, which I never really thought about, even though it kind of seems obvious now. And it did the moment I hung up the phone and finished the call with Peter. What he shared with me was how much, as the leader of a product development team, he wanted to be the creative person. And of course, as you know, if you're creating ideas, whether it's for products or marketing strategies, being creative takes a lot of energy and a lot of insight. And it's a discipline in itself to be creative. So what he wanted to do was for himself and his team focus on being creative and creating those new ideas and refining those ideas from the creative perspective. So we could be the strategic partner for him and his team in terms of that compliance. Kind of like he wanted to be the author of the great story and develop the plot and the characters, and we would be the editor, looking for all the grammar and the sentence structure and the spelling. And so we did what we did best, and he did what he did best. And our team did what we as a team did best, and his team could do what they do best. And it was that synergy that was actually possible because of all those years of grinding away with that physical evidence, that now we had this knowledge we could sell. And it really wasn't different. It was just a different way of approaching the conversation because we didn't have the evidence to say, oh, and here's why you fail. And one of the biggest surprises for me when I was asking people going forward with other people after Peter, and you may have seen this when you get into the innovation, and here's an example. Plumbing companies do this, and those mechanical services offering that service contract. Many people are afraid to offer the service contract because they say, oh, I don't want to be that cheesy sales guy offering this additional offer. And then you find it offers a new level of comfort for people because it creates some discipline and structure that they don't have to worry about as a customer. And that's what Peter revealed to me, was he wanted us to help him with that additional structure that really wasn't his strength, and he didn't want to make it part of his process. He wanted the external partner to say, here's the process, we can do this, we'll look out for you, we'll be your editor so you can focus on being more creative and more productive as a creative person with that kind of thinking that you do best. And what surprised me when I was taking this into the company and trying to scale this process by sharing the process slowly with people, beginning with those early adopters, and you know who those people are. They're the ones who are going to build the book of business and build the process with you, and then you can share it with everybody else later on once they see it really works and they can believe in it and they know there's no risk of embarrassment or that failure as they perceive it. Because there wasn't any failure with Peter or any one of those customers. We had this solid tradition that really was ready, able, but just not yet willing to engage in this new conversation with even more people in addition to those existing customers who literally helped us to build this great tradition over a quarter of a century. And one of those things I saw was when I was sharing this request with somebody, I would say, and when I want you to look at this, and sometimes we'd have something like a paint sample or something, not yet a product, and I would say, so I don't want you to test it to pass or fail, I just want you to tell me for informational purposes only. And that was one of those shocks that I didn't think was going to be a challenge when we were deploying this to larger scales of people throughout the company beyond that small group of the original team or those innovators, if you will. It was that different expression of this isn't going to be simple, it isn't a pass or fail, you're going to be a discussion, it's going to be a conversation. It's going to be a conversation about compliance. It's not about whether you don't or you do meet at this point. It's a conversation with a client. And that was a big shift. So when you think about that next best offer, start small, get those early adopters who are willing to explore and recognize a different conversation or maybe some subtlety that no one ever listened to or paid attention to before. Maybe it's a new guy named Peter, or maybe it's an older guy or woman you've known and worked with as a client for a longer time. Maybe it's over lunch, maybe over dinner, maybe a cup of coffee. A little bit more about how their experience has changed, or maybe how their experience has simply evolved in a way where maybe it's a strategic partnership you can create that you never thought was possible. And it turned out to be the way we could double our business in 18 months. And that was a big double as an older company. But it was that next best offer that wasn't that timely push like get a new data plan for your cell phone. It was how is your experience evolving where we can help you scale and we can scale at the same time. And you can work to your strength and we can work to our strength. Like the creative person versus the compliance Bob, and we're doing this together as a team and we can both make our teams respectively better. So when you think about next best offer, tradition as the foundation, learn about those customers, ask the deeper questions, and learn more about how their experience has changed as it relates to their strength and as it relates to your strength. Put together that next best offer, and don't worry about doing it fast. Do it slow, learn it the right way, share it with people throughout the company. And in the next couple of years, better times than ever before because of everything you've done so far. Talk to you soon. Thanks.